Welcome to the All Around Joe podcast, where we optimize your human performance from my personal experience as an athlete, coach, and all-around self-improvement junkie. On this edition of the All Around Joe podcast, I'm going to be talking to you about how to be good at CrossFit. After doing CrossFit for 8 to 10 years myself, after talking with many very good CrossFit athletes, including on the Get Better project where I interview top CrossFit athletes around the world, I have quite a few things that I can share with you about how to be really good at CrossFit, whether that is just at your gym or if you want to try and excel into the next levels of the CrossFit Open, CrossFit Regionals, and maybe even the CrossFit Games. Personally, I have only been to CrossFit Regionals, but I've not been to the CrossFit Games, but I have talked to several people on the Get Better Project podcast who have been to the games, and I've been gathering information from them as well. So I'm going to share A to Z with you on what I think it takes to be a very good CrossFit athlete. But first, I want to talk about our sponsors. Today, this podcast is brought to you by Audible, and the listeners of the All Around Joe podcast can get a free audiobook and 30-day free Audible trial by going to audibletrial.com/allaroundjoe. I personally recommend the book Chasing Excellence by Ben Bergeron. This is one of the best mindset and training books that I've read in years. So go to audibletrial.com, that's audibletrial.com/allaroundjoe to get Chasing Excellence or any other book for free. I use Audible every single day myself. So Audible is freaking fantastic. Keep the learning going. I highly recommend it. But let's jump right into how to be good at CrossFit. The first thing you have to do is you have to be consistent. So consistency is the number one thing. If you're not going to show up at least, you could maybe pull off 4 days a week, but I tell people to shoot for 5 days a week. I'm doing something with my fitness almost every single day. The only time that I'm taking full days off is if I'm on a strength program and I know that I want to do a lot more with growth and less with the conditioning aspect of things. But pretty much every day includes something. Like, for example, today is a day off, but I'm going to be spending an hour meditating. That meditation goes into increasing my CrossFit performance. So you have to be consistent. So don't really tease yourself about that you can come in 3 days a week and be really good at CrossFit. It's just not going to happen. So you could do it by supplementing with other things, but let's just say that you've got to get into CrossFit about 5 days a week, and you got to spend probably at least an hour, if not an hour and a half to 2 hours doing that each session. And that doesn't mean that you're going to be just totally crushing yourself for an hour and a half to 2 hours every single day. But what that does mean is that you're going to be spending time working through things. So it might be like you warm up for 30 minutes, then you do a 20-minute strength piece, then you do a 10-minute Olympic lifting piece or a 20-minute Olympic lifting piece. Then you have a Metcon, then you do some mobility, then you have another Metcon, or then you just do some gymnastics skill work, and that adds up to, an hour, hour and a half. Or 2 hours. It depends on how much stuff you need to work on and how much you can handle. But just, you're going to have to time block that amount of time if you want to really get good at the sport of CrossFit. Number 2, you want to make sure that you have good coaching. It is possible to do it all on your own. It's just going to take a lot longer than you probably want. So if you can find yourself some really good coaching, some eyeballs, some people to look at you and be able to identify if you're moving the way that you should be moving, it's just going to make you move faster through the improvements of the sport. So you can do online coaching as well. You can do offline coaching. Both of those would work. With online coaching, you just want to make sure that there's video review that's happening consistently so that you're able to get yourself in front of those eyeballs of people that are better than you, or at least can see things better than you can, so that you can make those improvements. Some great online coaching platforms are the CrossFitInvictus.com. You can go there. They have all kinds of coaching programs for weightlifting, for CrossFit in general, and all different competitive programs for you. You can check out my programs at thegetbetterproject.com. You can go to misfitathletics.com, and those guys also do a great job of giving programming and giving feedback for the higher level tiers. Those are the people that I've worked with personally and know that I can vouch for working with them. You want to make sure that you also have a coachable attitude. So I've worked with tons and tons of CrossFit athletes at this point. And when I say tons and tons, in the thousands. What distinguishes a good CrossFit athlete from a great CrossFit athlete is a coachability standpoint. So you might be having somebody that comes 5 days a week and they're getting better and getting better, but unless they're really coachable, unless the people that are working with them and trying to help them get better can give them information and have them actually listen to it and think about it and then put it into their training, they're just not going to get that much better. And I've seen way too many people that are good CrossFit athletes and they just won't take the coaching. Either what they're doing is they don't like to hear that they're doing something wrong, or number two is that they want to just go really fast and be the best at that particular WOD. So think about that if you want to be really good. You can't always just put the blinders on and try and push as hard as you can. At some point, something's probably going to break if you're not listening to a good coach, especially if there are people trying to help you out. Listen to them, take in that information, make the changes, ask questions too. Asking questions is very, very important. You want to have a strong diet plan, all right? Some people need to eat more than others. Some people need to eat less than others. Some people need more carbs. Some people need less carbs. You can do that all on your own by testing it if you want to, but it will take quite a bit longer than if you hire someone to help you out. You do need to do this though. Everybody has some sense of how much protein, carbs, and fats they're eating if they're doing very good at CrossFit or most other sports probably that have some sort of high level endurance or strength component. So you can do all of it yourself, or you can look into some of these other programs like RP Strength. You can go to my podcast, allaroundjoe.com/88, and learn how I set up diets for the clients that I work with. Now, I only take a very select few clients, so you can ask me if you would like to, but I'm not necessarily going to take clients at all times, so it would be, or don't be offended if I tell you that I don't have time to take you as a client right now. But know that you do want to have something set up. You know, you could be the type of athlete that needs to lose some body fat in order to be better at CrossFit. You could also, and maybe even more likely, be the type of athlete that needs to put on some muscle, and that can be even harder than losing body fat. In fact, I think it's quite a bit harder than it is to lose a bunch of body fat that you might need in order to be better at your sport. If you have to put on muscle and put on strength, that can be tough and can be something that you could use a lot of help with a professional. So, first off though, I would say just check out allaroundjoe.com/88 for how to set up your diet for success. See if that's something that you can figure out on your own. And if it's not, then reach out to some of these people that can help you out with your diet programming. Oh, I also know people that are having success with working against gravity, aka WAG. So check those guys out as well. Make sure that you have a weakness identification and focus. So what does that mean? It means that the sport of CrossFit rewards people that do not have any weaknesses, or at least that they don't seem like they have any weaknesses. And did everybody come into the sport that's good at CrossFit and not have any weaknesses? No, that's not what happened. What happened is they figured out what their weaknesses were, and then they worked on those weaknesses until they weren't weaknesses anymore. So if you are going to be good at this sport, you want to make sure that you have identified and focused on those particular things. You need to be really good at practicing them. Okay? Practice them on a regular basis. You also need to know that your programming probably does not get programmed specifically for you. So you're going to have to look at the program and you're going to have to change it in order to get your weaknesses trained enough so that they're not weaknesses and not just follow the program. So you have to step outside of what you think may feel right in order to get better at CrossFit. And if you can take an attitude of, I really, really want to work on the things that I'm not good at, and you get excited about getting better at these things that you're not good at, that will really drive you towards success in this sport, not only in the sport, but in life in general. So if you want to get good at podcasting, for example, if you practice it and you figure out what your weaknesses are and you try and move towards those weaknesses and do them more often and get better at them and think about them and continue working on them, hey, you're going to get better. It's just going to happen. The body's going to adapt. It's a fantastic thing. You also need to have a very high attention to recovery, all right? Sleep, sleep, sleep. You want to be sleeping a lot. Sleep is the best form of recovering. So make sure that you're getting a lot of sleep. I recommend tracking your sleep, but make sure you're getting at least 8 hours of sleep, if not more. Some of these top athletes are getting all kinds, or way more sleep. I was going to say all kinds of sleep, but yes, they're getting sleep, but they're getting way more high quality sleep than the average person. Make sure that your room is completely black. Make sure that it's quiet. Make sure that you have a bed that's comfortable. Make sure that you don't have too many sheets on top of you. It's been shown that a colder room, but a lighter sheet is going to help you to sleep. Even though we might feel like it's more cozy and comfy if we have that heavy sheet or comforter on us, it's actually been shown that the heavy things make us sleep worse. So have a high attention to sleep. I have a podcast at allaroundjoe.com/65, which is on how to optimize your sleep, so you can go over and check that out. I should also notice that I'm giving out or rambling about these links. You can go to allaroundjoe.com/133 and get all of the show notes where I put all of these links. So after listening to this podcast, if you go to allaroundjoe.com/133, you can just go and click through the links, and it might be easier for you. The other thing, besides sleep, mobility, you want to make sure that you're doing your recovering mobility. That could be stretching, that could be foam rolling, that could be having someone step on your quads or your calves or whatever that may be. That could be, working with some sort of hands-on tool or something like that. But you need to identify the recovery things that you need specifically as far as mobility goes, and you need to work on them. I mean, I have a lateral calf tightness that I get on a consistent basis from years of running that I have to work on more than other people do. Or you might have shoulder issues. Tons of people have shoulder issues when working through sport and CrossFit. So you want to make sure that you identify those things, and you want to make sure that you work on them regularly. I've heard a lot of people say they love electrostim, the Compex. We have a Compex, use it regularly. Definitely a good tool, but that's come up quite a few times on the Get Better Project podcast when I'm talking to these athletes. And you also want to make sure that you take days off when you need them. So I said that you want to be working out 5+ days a week, but if your body is beat down, you need to make sure that you take that time off in order to actually let your body get better, okay? Because you break down your body, recover, then you improve, and then you're ready to train. If you train too early, you will not get through the recovery or the improving process, and then you're not going to get any better, and you're going to be spinning your wheels, and you're not going to be very happy about it. So this is where I wanted to insert a quick note about the Whoop Strap. The Whoop Strap is an always-on activity tracker that I always have on my wrist, and the great thing about the Whoop Strap is that if you are trying to be really good at sport or working really hard at something, because it's always on, it gives you a complete recovery score each day. So you wake up in the morning and it tells you how recovered you are for that day by tracking your HRV, your resting heart rate, your sleep. It tracks your stress score, so that with all of these factors and with the fact that it is constantly learning about you, I've had mine on for about 14 or 15 months now, it will give you a more accurate indication of whether or not you should train hard that next day. So, for example, if I do 2 days of tough training in a row, I've found that it's very rare that my body has a high recovery score on that third day. And if I take that third day off and I go with 2 days on, 1 day off, 2 days on, 1 day off, consistently like that, I tend to have more gains than if I do the traditional CrossFit way of going 3 days on, 1 day off, 2 days on, 1 day off. So I just rotate it through like that. I wouldn't know that information if I didn't have something like the Whoop Strap on. So if you want to check out the Whoop Strap, you can go ahead and go to whoop.com, that's whoop.com, and use the code allaroundjoe to get yourself $50 off your own Whoop Strap. So I highly recommend it. Let me know if you have any questions about it. Like I said, I've had it on for about 15 months now. It's always on. Helps me recover, or helps to tell me if I am recovered, which does help me to get stronger faster. So there you have it. Next up, you've got to enjoy the grind, okay? It's going to take some time to get better at your weaknesses, so you have to really enjoy working out and working hard at the process to get better, Okay, like I've mentioned earlier, you have to enjoy the improvements of it and know that they're not going to happen all the time, but you have to enjoy like going to the gym, hanging out with the people, working really hard. If you enjoy those things and you can focus on the process rather than like where you're actually getting to, you're going to have a lot more success and a lot more fun having that success. All right, there's going to be times that you feel like quitting. It's going to be that you don't always want to go to the gym, but the times that you don't want to go and you usually go, if you feel like your body is recovered, then you probably are going to have a good experience. You just have to know that I'm going to put my head down, I'm going to work hard, this is what I'm working for, and I'm going to enjoy all of the little things that come along with trying to be a really good CrossFit athlete. So you're going to have to work really, really hard. I mean, that's probably, you probably are like, duh, I get it. I have to work really, really hard. But you need to be able to push your body to new intensity levels, right? The body adapts with stress, which is why CrossFit works so well, right? The high intensity, constantly varied movements. If you work hard, they create a lot of stress in the body and the body has to adapt. So you need to work really hard at everything you're doing so that your body adapts. And that, same thing with everything else in life. You work really, really hard, you're going to adapt to it, you're going to get better at it. So work on working really hard. When something gets hard, work harder and see how hard you can work. See if you can figure out what that consistent push is. That's another interesting thing about having this whoop strap, is that it has you track your activities. So let's say I did a CrossFit workout. It asked me on a scale of 1 to 21 how hard that workout was, and then it asked me how I thought I performed on a scale of 1 to 5. So did I push really hard? So how hard was it? And you get an idea for like, all right, if I gave it my 100%, that was, a 20 or 21. That was just, I got crushed by the workout and I gave it 100%. And then sometimes that's going to equal that you got a 5 out of 5 and you performed really well. Or sometimes you can push to 100% and you perform crappy, you perform mediocre. It's not going to be awesome for you. But knowing that you can figure out how hard you pushed will help you to know when to push and how hard to push in order to get those results that you really want. Injuries. You have to know that injuries happen in sport, and you should not get discouraged when you have injuries. I know that as a head coach of a CrossFit gym, I have people come to me all the time and they're like, oh, I have this little tweak here, a little tweak there, and a lot of times people are not necessarily informed, or they don't have a big athletic background. They haven't been playing their sports the whole life, so they don't understand that injuries are just part of the game. If as soon as you do, though, you can learn from those particular injuries. You can learn when you have certain things that aren't feeling quite right so that you can go and attack them and avoid them being injuries. Let's say that you have a little bit of a shoulder tweak. Maybe you avoid that and you do more mobility. So you might have to take a slight step back in improving the shoulders, but you're going to stay healthy longer by taking that a little bit of time to do mobility. Or let's say that you do actually have an injury and you have to stop doing that. Then you just need to shift your focus to the other things that you can pay more attention to. I'm sure that there's things other than your shoulder needing to work in a way that hurts that can be improved when you have that particular shoulder injury. So every injury or thing that I encounter with being a good CrossFit athlete opens me up to improving other areas. So you have to look at it like that. Just if something comes in front of you and creates an obstacle, you bounce off of it and you figure out the next direction to go around that obstacle with. And you just continue moving forward. Injuries are part of it. And it's really important also that you have a great sports chiropractor. I highly recommend that. I usually go to my sports chiropractor, every other week or so. Even if I'm not hurting, I'm just going to go there and be like, hey, I've got tight calves. Let's work on my calves. Or my hips are tight. Let's work on that. Because there's always something that's going to be a little bit tight, not necessarily injured at all. And if it is injured, if you do get injured, then you know exactly who to go to. So I highly recommend that you figure out a great sports chiropractor that you can go to on a regular basis. Figure out which ones your insurance take. Go interview a few of them, see which one jives with you the best, and then just get on a consistent schedule. Use up that insurance as much as you can so that you can constantly be going there and constantly be on top of your game. So we covered that you have to be consistent, you need to have good coaching, you have to have a coachable attitude, you need a strong diet, you have to be able to identify your weaknesses and focus on crushing them. You need a strong attention to recovery, because recovery is the process of after breaking down. A lot of people that I encounter get really good at just crushing themselves, but then they go out and they eat bad food, they drink too much alcohol, they don't sleep enough, and then they wonder why. Number one, they don't get the results they should. Number two, they have more probability for getting these little injuries or aches and pains. Not big injuries, but just little things that keep popping up. You have to enjoy the grind. You got to really enjoy working hard, because if you don't enjoy what you're doing, then you're not going to continue doing it. So you need to enjoy this, and you need to work really, really hard. Okay? So you have to enjoy working hard. That's got to be something that's ingrained. Not necessarily ingrained, but you have to ingrain it inside of yourself. You might not be the person that was brought up that learned how to work really hard, but that doesn't mean that you can't start doing that. So know that you can change your attitude around it. You can work really, really hard towards goals, and you can enjoy the process of it. You can enjoy the process of it, all right? Lastly, injuries, they happen. Don't get discouraged. I mean, you're probably in the moment going to be slightly discouraged. Bounce back really quickly and figure out what you can focus on in order to get that injury healed, and then the other things that you can focus on to get better at because of that injury. Because maybe you're going to, you hurt your shoulder and you're going to get really good at your squats. You have the opportunity to spend more time on them, so you're going to, and you're going to get really great at doing that. So that is the process that I go through and that I've seen people go through on how to be a good CrossFit athlete. If you guys have any questions, you can always put them in the show notes at allaroundjoe.com/133. That's allaroundjoe.com/133. And if you'd like to get my Superhuman Body podcast series, just head over to allaroundjoe.com and it will pop up right there on your side or on the main screen. Just put your email in there and you will get the podcast series on how you can become superhuman. So I hope you guys enjoyed this podcast. The All Around Joe podcast, where we optimize your human performance from my personal experience as an athlete, coach, and all-around self-improvement junkie. I will see you on the next podcast.